All rise. Court is in session. This is the United States Bankruptcy Court, Northern District, California. The Honorable William J. Lafferty presiding.
Okay, please be seated. Okay, it's just one matter, so let's go ahead and call the matter.
Yes, Your Honor. Calling line item number 1 for the Roman Catholic Bishop of Oakland, case number 23-40523.
Okay, I don't know how many appearances we have on Zoom, but let's start in the courtroom. Okay, let's do appearances there.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Anne Marie Utes of Foley and Lardner for the debtor.
Okay.
I have my partner Matt Lee of Foley, also Chuck Moore, and Paul Bongiovanni Alvarez, and our CFO, respectively.
Okay, great. Okay. Good afternoon.
Things are being moved over now, Your Honor.
Good morning, Your Honor, or good afternoon, Your Honor. Tobias Keller, Benvenuti Kim. We're local counsel to Lowenstein Sandler and jointly counsel for the Unsecured Creditors Committee.
Okay, I don't know if we've seen each other in quite this way since COVID, but as you can tell, things are differently configured. We don't have a lectern anymore so that we can accommodate the Zoom reality a little bit easier. So with that, thank you for the courtesy of rising. Everybody is seated at table and we just talk. Okay, I used to love it when people had to go to, it focused me wonderfully, but we just don't have that luxury right now. So thank you again. Thanks to all of you. Okay, let's get some appearances on the Zoom. See Mr. Blumberg for the U.S. trustee.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Jason Blumberg for the United States trustee.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Gabrielle Albert with Mr. for the Unsecured Creditors Committee.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Jeffrey Prohl, Lowenstein Sandler, counsel to the Official Committee of Unsecured Creditors. Judge, we appreciate the ability to appear by Zoom today. Given the nature of the matters, we figured rather than make the trip out to Oakland, we would appear this way, although we do look forward to being present in the courtroom on a matter in the near future.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. This is Brent Weisenberg, also of Lowenstein Sandler, proposed counsel to the Official Committee of Unsecured Creditors. And I'll echo Mr. Prohl's sentiment. Thank you for allowing us to appear by Zoom today.
Well, is anybody telling you can't? It's a different world, right? No, I mean, I will tell you, I don't know if I'm cutting off other appearances. We have been theoretically open under the guidance, and I'm not kidding, of Judge Hammond, who's very much in the 21st century, unlike some of her colleagues, and has a knack for these technological things, et cetera. So we have been open theoretically for about a year. But as you can imagine, and maybe your experience in other courts, it has been a trickle, not a torrent. People are used to Zoom. They find it preferable in some ways. They find it certainly less expensive than getting on airplanes. So I'm always delighted to see folks in the courtroom. I'm mindful of all the reasons why it may not be possible from time to time. So thank you for the courtesy of addressing that, and I look forward to seeing you in person when that is convenient. Okay? Okay, anybody else on Zoom?
These are all the participants, Your Honor.
Okay, so in my mind, this is largely a continuation of discussions we've had, although now we're now lucky to have the voice of the committee. I don't know if they've been weighing in yet on things. We want to start talking about schedules to get discussions going and getting issues before me as needs to happen between the committee and the debtor, so I'm all ears. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah.
I'd like to first update the court on the 6 first-day motions and the status of those. We've been able to resolve some of those with the committee.
Okay.
A couple of them we'd like to put over. Then I've got a few more updates for the court. But if I may start with the motions. We have resolved with the committee and with the United States trustee 4 of the 6. The utilities, the victim.
Can I stop you for a second? Has any utility gotten back to you with any objection or comment or?
No.
Okay. All right, thanks.
So that's the first motion is utilities. The second is the victim survivors motion. That is.
That's the support?
Yes.
Okay.
That is poised for submission as a final order today with the agreement of the committee and the U.S.
Has it been modified?
That one has not.
Okay.
The third one, which has had some modifications I'll describe to the court broadly, is the insurance motion. We have reached agreement with the United States trustee and the committee on that.
Okay.
Broadly, and Chubb, which had weighed in even before the last hearing, Your Honor. Chubb had requested some clarifying language to the effect that the order does not alter or amend any of the terms of the debtor's insurance program, nor does the order create a direct right of action against any insurer.
If it doesn't exist.
Correct.
All right. That may come up again, maybe, right?
Perhaps.
You never know. Okay.
The other changes we negotiated with the committee were that we will provide 7 days notice to the committee of any new insurance agreements. We also agreed, and we've discussed with them, that may not be practical with the agreement that will be coming up with respect to premium financing. So we're going to give them as much reasonable notice as is practicable. And we're working on that renewal right now, Your Honor. And I thought that we had cooperative, productive discussions with the committee on that. We're certainly going to let them know soonest. We just don't know that we're going to have.
Well, let me just make sure I understand. The 7 days notice is as between the debtor and the committee?
Correct.
And then if there is agreement, fine. If there isn't, fine. At that point, you bring it to the court on regular notice, or you'll figure that out when it happens? We'll
figure that out, but we thought the 7 days gives
time. So that's not
a,
I mean, no offense, that's not a 7-day rolling OST, right?
Not in my mind, Your Honor.
Okay.
It's
well, not in mine either, for
Yeah.
what it's worth. Okay.
Good.
Great. But I'm always happy to hear you about the exigencies, okay? All right.
The less than 7 days issue relates to the fact that we need to get a new premium finance agreement in place by July 1, and we're still negotiating that. And so we may bump up against the end of the month as we bring the committee into that discussion once we have a proposed agreement.
Well, can I pause there for a moment?
Yes.
There's a judge availability issue there. I don't know if you remember that. And how assuming you get to an agreement, what's your thinking about a hearing date?
So our thinking about a hearing date is that we are looking into, Your Honor, whether, at least from our perspective and perhaps from the committee's perspective, that is not an agreement that can be entered into in the ordinary course of the debtor's business based on its history and entering into those agreements. We don't have a definitive position on that. And if the court has any comments, I'm sure you'll make them.
I don't yet.
We're still looking into that. So we're not certain that we need a hearing date.
Okay.
We are well aware of the court's schedule and you've shared it with us. And so we're working within that as well.
All right. Can I float one other idea? You don't have to react to this at all. Okay. Oddly enough, about 120 feet away, there's another judge who's also handling a Roman Catholic diocese case. Judge Novak and I have a general agreement that when something is exigent, we will try to handle it for each other. I haven't raised this with him yet, but if you would like me to, I can. I'm highly confident he's here when I'm not. So
I think generally, Your Honor, even without respect to this particular issue, it would be helpful for the parties to know that. So we would appreciate your offer of raising it and letting us know.
Right. Okay. And I think he may call on me to do the same thing. So
understood.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll see how far doctrinally we diverge here. Not to make a pun, but yeah, we'll see. Okay. But if you'd like me to raise that with him and tell him that it's probably most pertinent the last week of June.
I believe so, Your Honor.
All right. Okay.
And again, it may not come to pass if, in our view, and we have the support of the committee, if collectively we believe it to be the correct position that it's an ordinary course agreement, we're still looking at that.
Okay. And it would be a new agreement, not an assumption of something you've already.
It would be a new agreement because the current agreement expires at the end of June, as it does every year.
Okay. And if you don't know shit,
Judge Jeff Pearl, may I weigh in on that? That a moment.
Let me finish my thought, and then you can. Okay.
Yes.
Is this a large payment up front and then monthlies, or is it more modest?
It's divided by 12, Your Honor. It's that premium agreement, that premium payment that we talked about at the last hearing, if you might recall.
I do recall. That's a big number.
It's a reasonably big number.
Yeah. Okay. So sorry, Mr. Paul. Go ahead.
Yeah, Judge, I was just going to say that what we're discussing now is an insurance premium financing agreement in motion, which are generally pretty standard fare. And while the payments may be large,
I may be the judge of that. You never know. We'll see. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
thank
that
you.
I don't anticipate this being a difficult issue for us to reach consensus with
All right.
the debtor, and
Okay.
it may well be something that we can proceed with by submitting a consent order, or certainly I don't anticipate a problem.
And I may agree with you. I may not. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see. Okay. Thank you for that. Very insightful. Okay.
Your Honor, that's my report on the insurance.
Okay.
Final order. We would be set to upload a proposed final order for your consideration following today's hearing.
Okay.
Then there's a fourth, which is cash management.
Yeah.
We have reached agreement with the United States trustee and the committee with a few modifications to the cash management order that I will outline for the court.
Sure.
The first is we have now a date certain by which we will convert our last outstanding bank account to a DIP account. So there was that one that's hanging. It's still hanging, but we're confident we're going to get there. We have set with the United States trustee in the order a June 30 date to convert that to a DIP. That's the city bank account, Your Honor.
Okay.
Secondly, the agreement with the committee broadly is that we will keep records, as we already do, of all transfers between RCBO and either a church or a non-debtor Catholic entity as defined in the order. And with respect to bank accounts, we will provide notice to the committee of the opening or closing of any bank account for RCBO. Also, with respect to churches, we will provide notice. We've talked with the committee about the timing for notice with respect to churches because of the flow of information between the debtor and the churches. But we feel comfortable with the language that we've included and agreed to with the committee with respect to that issue.
Okay.
Those are the main changes to.
Can I inquire about something that I'm guessing you may be talking about already? There are certainly layers here. Is there discussion ongoing now between the U.S. trustee and the committee and the debtor about what a monthly operating report's going to look like?
So not yet.
Okay, but
that's start that right away.
Okay.
Yeah. And Your Honor, I do have, and this is maybe breaking news for Mr. Blumberg, but yes, I have a planned conversation with him with respect to timing for that.
Okay.
And with respect to what is included in it.
Okay.
I will note that, at least as a maybe an update, we did provide information to the United States trustee on Friday in advance of the initial debtor interview, which is coming up on June 9th. We are working on an amendment to the schedules in the SOFA. And we will have that conversation with the committee and with the trustee as you've identified.
Okay. Is it your expectation that you would, quote, timely, close quote, file the first MOR, or is it going to be a little bit delayed?
The first one, we're going to ask for an extension, Your Honor. That's the breaking news.
Okay.
But we are amending the schedules and SOFA this week. And we're going to try to keep a pace.
Okay. Mr. Blumberg, had you heard that before?
Your Honor, Jason Blower. No, I had not heard that before just now.
Okay. All right. I mean, I doesn't exactly shock me. Okay.
And I will have that conversation promptly with both, Your Honor.
Okay.
So with that, those are the four motions where we have reached agreement on final orders, and it would be our intent to upload the proposed final orders for this court's consideration following this hearing. We have them ready to go, and I think we've even gotten, I may be out over my skis, but I think we've gotten sign off from both the United States trustee and the committee on each of the four, but we'll make sure that we do before we upload them.
Okay.
And Chubb as to the insurance.
Okay.
That leaves two motions, Your Honor, which we would propose to put over until June 20th. And I understand we're in the 9 a.m. docket reserved for that.
Yeah, I thought that was what you had wanted, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
The two motions, just for the record, are the wages and benefits motion and the notice and confidentiality motion.
Sure.
As an update to the court, just very broadly, I think the issue that's outstanding, and we'll continue to talk, but candidly, we likely will have an issue for this court's decision. The notice and confidentiality has to do with what names will be made public.
Yep.
And the wages and benefits issue has to do with who will receive wages and benefits. There's a certain category of individuals to which there may be an objection. So we will continue to have those discussions. We didn't want to push for that today, given that the committee just got appointed. We did discuss with the committee, I believe, dates for the briefs, for the objection and the reply.
Yep.
Mr. Lee is going to tell me what those dates are because I
Okay.
just don't recall.
Well, and I'll tell you if they're okay.
Yes,
All
exactly.
right. Very good. Thank you.
Always.
Okay.
You, of course, get final say if this works for
Oh,
you,
thank you.
Hunter, But my discussions with counsel for the committee
Yeah.
is that their written objections to those two motions would be due by the end, by end of the day on the 13th, which
Okay.
is a week from today.
Okay.
And then any written reply would be submitted by the debtor on, I believe it was Friday, June 16th, in advance of the hearing on the 20th. So if the committee agrees that that's what we agreed to, they can speak up, and if it works for you, then
Anybody have any further thoughts about that? That's okay?
Your Honor, that schedule is acceptable to the committee.
Okay. All right. Do we anticipate any live testimony on the 20th on these issues? I'm guessing no, but you tell me.
I'm guessing and hoping no, Your Honor, and if that
Okay.
changes, I will alert everyone, including the court.
Yeah, I would need to know that by like Friday noon, okay? And I will tell you that for a whole bunch of reasons, some of which are driven by this case, but others are driven by other concerns, my timing is getting stretched a little bit. So, for example, on the 20th, I've got something that I absolutely have to do from 1 to about 2:30. So I don't know if we're expecting to spend the better part. If we are, we just have to work around a few things.
Your clerk
Okay,
had
or we may have to talk again the next day if we need to, okay?
Thanks, Your
All
Honor.
right, no problem.
That closes out the 6 motions. I've got
Okay.
a few other updates for the court, if I may.
Yeah,
With respect to the retention apps that have been submitted by the debtor, that is for Foley and Lardner, Alvarez and Marcel, and KCC. We have responded to questions that the United States trustee has. And we thank the United States trustee and the court for the cooperation on Friday with extending the deadline for the
Sure.
UST as we were responding to those questions. My partner had a further conversation with Mr. Blumberg today. I understand there are some follow-up questions. We are going to prioritize and get in the responses to those soonest. If the court has a hearing with respect to the retention applications, if that's what the court desires to do, we would be hopeful that that would be on the 20th.
sure.
If the court doesn't
But
need
let's
to have a hearing.
expect that's,
Okay,
okay.
great.
I don't want that to hang any longer than it needs to. Okay, you're entitled to
Thank you.
a prompt response there, okay? Do we have a committee? We don't have committee retention apps yet, right?
We have not filed those
Okay.
yet. We're working on
Okay.
ProHawk VJs right now.
Okay, well, let me ask you this too, and not to, well, you may not know yet. Do you expect to hire a financial advisor?
I'll let Mr. Prohl respond.
Ms.
to that.
Prohl?
Your Honor, Jeff Pearl on behalf of the committee. Yes, we do, Your Honor.
Okay.
We are in the process of reviewing submissions and will likely schedule interviews in the not too
Okay.
distant future.
Okay. Well, it may not be that the 20th, if there are any issues about those retentions, I don't know that we can tee them up for the 20th. I don't want to say we can't, but it might be challenging. And I'm always willing to listen to you folks about, making exigent things happen quickly. Okay?
Your Honor, I don't think that's necessary. My firm and Mr. Keller's firm are in the process of running conflicts checks. I
Okay.
think that the list we were provided is several thousand names long, so it is a bit tedious. And I
Yeah.
would suspect that you probably
No, I
let's see your retention applications on file for another week or more. And
Okay.
we can schedule those in due course.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Fair enough. All right. Okay. Next.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
One nit, maybe it's not a nit. I don't want to characterize it, but the status conference date that the court has given us,
Oh, that's movable. So
it's movable. Okay,
Sure.
we'll deal with your op. We'll work through chambers and
Yeah.
committee and the United States trustee on that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
As well, I just wanted to provide, it may be apparent from today's proceedings, but we've been in good communication with Mr. Prohl and his
Right.
team.
good.
Today, we received their first request for documents. We're going to promptly review that,
Okay.
get with them, and we're actually hopeful to schedule an in-person meeting with council
Good. Okay, great.
within the very near term.
Great. Okay.
Also, with respect to logistics, we had discussed a possibility of a standing date for a hearing. And we spoke with your clerk before the hearing today. Subject to a agreement with the committee, which we'll follow up on after this hearing, piggybacking, if you will, on the days where you have the Santa Rosa docket in the morning and us aiming for an afternoon hearing on those dates. That's what we're aiming toward.
Okay, that's
We'll
one day.
talk-
That's one day a month.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
talk with-
which is a way of saying that's not the biggest request I've ever had. So, one day a month is workable, or
Ever hopeful, but we still need to
Okay.
talk with the committee.
okay.
We may
All right.
cushion it to 2, but we're not going to go to
All
4.
right. Well, let me know. Okay.
And that is all that I have for your honor this afternoon.
Okay. I may be way ahead of things here, but there's frequently a spirited discussion about things like the first meeting of creditors and bar dates. And is that coming to my attention anytime soon, or do you know?
So we actually, thank you. We did have a brief discussion, and it was unspirited about the bar date with the committee
No pun
council.
intended. Okay. It was quite secular. Okay.
It may become spirited, but we'll try not to.
All right.
We are actually going to revisit that issue with the committee, and there may be a bar date motion that is brought before your honor in fairly short order.
Okay.
And as well, we'll be talking about the 341, which is scheduled for June 21st.
Okay.
Again, we're hopeful for that in-person meeting with committee council pretty soon.
And I don't know where it's set to take place. So is there any sense that the venue might have to be reconsidered, or do you know?
For the 341, your
Yeah.
honor? My understanding from Mr. Blumberg, unless I'm mistaken, is that it's by telephone.
Okay, never mind. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
That's all I have, your honor.
Okay. Is there a phase 2 to your comments? And I want to hear from anybody else who wants to give me an update or anything else. You're not sure?
Oh, I'm done, your honor. I don't
Okay.
know if anybody else has anything.
Okay. All right. Mr. Pearl, I think you're probably leading the charge here. So do you want to speak on behalf of the committee or defer to any of your colleagues?
Sure, Your Honor. I agree with the comments made by Debtors Council that we have been working cooperatively, discussing issues. We had a preliminary conversation about not only the bar date, but the proof of claim form, which are very important in terms of moving the case forward.
Sure.
We've been caucusing with our client, and we will have further discussions with regard to that, and are optimistic that we'll be able to come to you with something that is consensual.
Okay.
But that's going to take a little time just to work through.
Okay.
We also did, as council represented, serve our first request for documents. Obviously, property, the estate is a big issue in these cases. What is the diocese own? What are the other Catholic entities own? What claims and causes of action are there? And certainly to the extent that we can get cooperative, consensual discovery without the need for subpoenas and motion practice, the case moves along faster. And so we've sent that out. We've asked for them to review it and get back to us with questions, comments, and concerns, and see if we can work consensual schedules.
Great. Terrific. Thank you.
Certainly our intent to try to do everything as consensually as possible here.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Anything else on your end?
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Keller, anything you want to add or amplify, or? Okay.
Mr. Prohl has it all perfectly.
Okay. U.S. trustee?
Nothing from me, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other issues between the U.S. trustee and the debtor that are out there that you want me to at least have on my landscape someplace?
Your Honor, Jason Blumberg for the United States trustee as Ms. Utes represented. We're still working through the employment applications, but as far as I know, that's the main issue. I guess the operating report issue is the other issue that I'm aware of now.
Okay. All right. Anything else for the good of the order today?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
No? Okay. Thank you. See you guys on the 20th. All right. I will run that question at least informally by Novak. Okay. And we'll see.
Wonderful.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay.
Your Honor.
Good to see you. Thank you.